Wherefore, Part 11. The Wizard Wambleforth specialises in waterways and is the self-appointed patron saint of lesbian and bisexual boaters. This is a niche area that hopefully will grow over time as the town's canal is restored. Currently the youngest of the Stroud Wizards, Wambleforth is still figuring out how to make much of this wizarding malarkey work. Thus far, the youngest of the 7 wizards has not got into the all-important business of trying to thwart the other 6. This is despite the best efforts of a predecessor who was enthusiastic in the extreme on the thwarting front. Thus far there have been no obvious signs of attempt to thwart, but it is always possible that the other 6 are being subtle. At present there is a curious amount of dream magic floating about in the waterways. For some time now, Wambleforth has been studying it, mostly by wading along watercourses in the night. It is easier to listen to the water this way. At this point, Wambleforth is confident there are no external sources to the watery dream magic. It is made of water and dreams, moves through these media and originates in them. It is not so much the magic of intention as a yearning. Something is missing, something vital, and so the water is dreaming it back into the world, or the dreaming is watering it back into the world. What matters from a wizarding perspective is that this is a deep and intrinsic magic and not the sort you can demand shows up in person inside a magical circle to answer your questions. The magic that summons and controls is wholly inadequate for the situation, which is an exciting prospect all by itself. Whatever is going on in the water, none of the other wizards have had anything to do with it. For over a week now, the Wizard Wambleforth has been moving about in culverts, trying to properly understand the behaviour of water around the centre of town. This is complicated by the ghosts of lost streams that do not know they are ghosts and take themselves very seriously. There is a small accumulation of mythic, barely corporeal water life at a spot where there used to be a pond. It is an amusing distraction from the work in hand. Wambleforth is fond of distractions. There are differences in the flow of dream magic. After a few false starts and a passing conversation with some brown rats, the Wizard Wambleforth sets off along the Slad stream, walking against the flow of water. Something is definitely going on here. The water dreams with greater intensity. And now there is also a faint taste of human dreaming in the mix. This is a surprise. It turns out there is a beaver dam across the Slad stream. Wambleforth stops knee-deep in water and stands just below the dam to consider the scene. There is a pond and clear evidence of sapling felling, and yet there is no lodge. This is obviously the wrong way round. Lodges come first. The taste of magic and dream is really strong here. Then the beaver becomes visible and everything starts to make sense. There is just the one beaver, pulling mud up from the bottom of the pond and adding it to the dam. However, the beaver is also a middle-aged woman, and the dam maker drifts back and forth between these two forms. Sometimes this means doing the beaver work with hands that aren't even slightly up to the job. Further, the beaver woman is woefully insubstantial, making the task incredibly difficult. Wambleforth considers the monumental effort the dam must have taken in light of these many technical problems. "Can you hear me?" Wambleforth asks the beaver woman. There is no break in the work, but the beaver woman looks up fleetingly. "Are you able to talk, or are you under some kind of compulsion?" There is no response. Whatever is going on for the beaver woman right now, a chat is clearly out of the question. While the beaver woman works on the dam, Wambleforth is able to study this unlikely combination of beings. It is difficult to say where the beaver part of the equation has come from. It is not a real beaver. It is more like an idea of a beaver than a specific individual. Perhaps this is what the water remembers of beavers and now longs for. The woman, on the other hand, seems to be a significant percentage of something self-identifying as a person. Not the whole person, somehow, but some definite part thereof. A ghost, a memory, a soul fragment, an astral projection. There are a lot of options. And with the beaver element in the mix, it's hard to see what's going on. This is not just water magic. There is an element of weaving to it as well on closer inspection. More weaving than is the inevitable consequence of magic. Wambleforth can see the weaving a bit. It always touches all forms of magic, so one can hardly be a wizard and not see it, but seeing the weave is not the same as understanding the weave. And understanding the weave still leaves you a long way short of being able to work with the fabric. And then there's being able to handle the threads in the first place. Weavers are rare. It's a hard magic to undertake without going entirely mad, because it works on such outlandish scales and time frames, while depending on the tiniest details. It is likely that some of the Stroud wizards will have a few weaving skills, but Wambleforth does not know which ones. Further, Wambleforth doubts that any of them have the means to weave the idea of a beaver as longed for by a watercourse into a part of a woman in a way that would get a dam built. So who is doing this? Wambleforth wonders about weaver gods, the ones who make the threads in the first place. Weaver gods are a much debated subject. However, anyone who can weave this well might be best thought of as having godlike powers. Having some personal history with things that thought they were gods, this whole line of thought makes Wambleforth nervous. A few birds call in the remaining trees around the pond. The darkness softens a little, and Wambleforth's patience is rewarded as the beaver and the woman start pulling away from each other. The beaver part is indeed returning to the water like a memory. The woman part is leaving, and at this point looks more like an astral projection than anything else. The woman has somewhere else to be, and departs in a hasty, floaty way, oblivious to the wizard following close on her insubstantial heels. When Nerys wakes up, it is into a body that seems to be full of rocks, and it is too heavy for movement. Today will be an awful day. There is no point even trying to guess what is possible. Almost nothing will be possible. All she can do is hope for sleep, because the frustration and boredom will be terrible. It is a tedious condition, and she hates how this makes her feel. Trapped and unable to alleviate the sheer banality of it. Some time passes before she can even face opening her eyes. There is a small person sat on the floor. A person Nerys has never seen before. There is no energy in her for alarm or a burst of adrenaline. She just lies there and wonders what the fuck this is all about and whether it's her mother's fault. I know this is a terrible infringement of your privacy, the small person says, but we really do need to talk. Nerys takes a slow, deep breath and finds there is nothing she wants to say. It is all too much. I can see you're tired, which isn't surprising given that some part of you spent the night in a pond. Are you aware of what's happening to you? Nerys wonders if she is still dreaming and says nothing. The small person nods. You do know at least a bit, so you're somehow entangled with the memory of beavers and you're out there trying to be a beaver yourself. Is this ringing any bells? Nerys considers the statement. It makes about as much sense as anything else. By the looks of it, this isn't going well for you. Would you like some help trying to sort it all out? Nerys doesn't have to think about this. No, she says. She is very tired of people trying to help. The small person in her bedroom looks disappointed. I really could help, you know. You wouldn't be so tired if you weren't out there being a beaver all night. Nerys reflects that by comparison all of her mother's lunatic interventions now seem quite sane and reasonable. She has never before felt so warm towards remote acupuncture and Reiki shamanism as she does right now. Well, give me a shout if you change your mind, her uninvited visitor says. Call out for the Wizard Wambleforth and I will appear. The small person disappears. It has just been a dream. There is a chance she will wake up properly in a bit and not feel quite so much as though all of her bones have been filled with lead. The Wizard Wambleforth goes home, muttering about people who will not be helped and who would not know their best interests if bitten on the bottom by them. It is perhaps the most frustrating part of being a wizard, that there are only 6 other people in town who really take wizards seriously, even though their presence is an open secret. Everyone knows Stroud is run by 7 wizards. But everyone also knows that they are so busy doing wizard stuff as to be of no use whatsoever.